Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute delight to see you all here this evening. And thank you ever so much to the Manchester ISOC for inviting us. Very kind of you, I must say. Now, to start off this evening, we'll start with an ayah of the Quran, a verse from the Quran, where Allah revealed, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal maw'izati al hasana," which means invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching. And it's beautiful preaching and that invitation which we look upon this evening, because it's very important, isn't it, Ben? Do apologize, I've only got one mic.
It's all right. Yeah, it's an absolute delight to be here, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. A bit disappointed that I've not seen with the brothers wearing suits. What's going on? But no problem. But yes, as it's a delight to be here. And obviously, last month marked Islamophobia Awareness Month. And as we know, Islamophobia is on the rise across Europe. And having experienced it myself and been a part of it actually throughout my journey, like to come into Islam. Like, it's quite strange actually being here now, because last time I was in Manchester, I was here for a gig, and now alhamdulillah, I'm here giving dawah with this esteemed gentleman here. But in regards to like the situation that we're in, brothers and sisters, it's crucial that we show the world, our non-Muslim friends, what we are and what Islam is about. In Europe, South America, all over the world, and how we can combat it, how we can make a change and change that narrative. This beautiful ayah of the Quran, that's what it's about. Bringing people into the religion, touching their hearts, not shouting at them or scaring them away or anything like that, but explaining to them like why we do things, like why we pray, why we fast, and why we want to strive for a better society and community for all. Isn't that right, Christopher?
Yes, it is indeed. So, Islamophobia, as you probably heard a lot about this month with relation to Islamophobia Awareness Month. You may have heard about the definition of Islamophobia. It talks about being rooted in racism, a type of cultural racism, whereby it's not focused upon the pigment of your skin, but rather upon the racialization of Muslims, where Muslims are othered, Muslims are marginalized, Muslims are put into a box, and they're not, quote unquote, us, the white guys. And many people are quite shocked that there's not an established definition of Islamophobia. There are other established definitions of bigotry, of other forms of discrimination within society. But there's not one for Islamophobia that's been adopted. Yes, there are definitions by the APPG in Parliament, but they haven't been adopted by the UK government. And that begs the question, why? And one of the reasons is because Islamophobia has existed not just since 9/11. It's existed throughout the centuries, since the time of the Crusades. Muslims were seen as a threat, but a threat in an empire way, taking over land, conquering land, and now it's seen as a threat to the morals and values of the West, through ignorance, may I add. However, what is important is to dispel those beliefs, to take back our narratives, because we are millions within this country and a community that has millions of people. We're allowing the narratives to be written for us. We're allowing the movies to be written for us and to be showcased in cinemas. And we're allowing the storybooks that are told to children to be written for us. And it's time for us to take strength collectively together as one united ummah, as one nation, whether it be in the UK, whether it be in Palestine, whether it be in Australia or Japan, to all say enough is enough and we're going to take back our narrative. We're not going to allow people to talk about us. We're going to talk about ourselves and show the true image of Islam. But by showing the true image of Islam, it's not by turning up to Barry in the pub and saying, "Barry, let me tell you about Islam," whilst I've got a curry stain on my clothes and I've got roti sarlan in my beard, because he's going to look at you and think, "No, I'm all right, thank you." Presentation is so key. We need to understand that Islam needs to be palatable to the British population. It needs to be something that they can accept in a way whereby they feel comfortable. They don't feel like they have to become the foreign other. Because we know in Islam that ethnic supremacy it's not only not allowed, it's something that we get rid of through the solutions of Islam.
And this is part of the work that we've been doing over the last year. You know, our suits, it's not just about looking good, it's about that anti-Islamophobic package to combat that. Because a lot of people, when they see us, there's this shock that they think we're actually bankers. And then when Christopher says a hadith or an ayah of the Quran, there's that shock factor. And then people say to us, oh, we didn't know that you were Muslim. You can be British, white, and you can be a Muslim? And people forget that Islam is for the whole of mankind. And how beautiful is that? And it's up to us to keep saying those narratives. And we know these legacies, as Christopher was saying, about, you know, rooted in colonialism and where it still stems from today and how it's utilized by our old friend, the media. But these narratives, we know, they are not correct. And in my own experience, when I was researching about Islamophobia when I was at Leeds University many moons ago, lots of the Islamophobes, when they seem to be attacking Islam, according to Ipos Mori, many of them haven't even engaged in conversation with a Muslim. They don't know any Muslims, but they just assume that Islam is this because of the power of the media. And within the power of the media, you know, we live in a post-9/11 era where we're portrayed as like a terrorist. And of course, that's so not true. Like, I've just reunited with a brother who knew me at Leeds before I became a Muslim. What does he do? He gives me a big hug. And this is part of Islam. This is part of Islam, and it's through action, through the deeds. Look at how the Prophet ﷺ dealt with non-Muslims, showed compassion, and invited them to the religion. And again, he didn't want to scare them off because, of course, what's the main goal? We want what is good for people. And what is good for people? Islam. Like, how much has it? Well, who's a convert here, actually? Don't be shy, mashallah. And brothers, can I ask you, or sisters, how much has it enriched your lives? How much has it changed you in the heart? It's a powerful thing, and we want to keep going. We want to keep going and tackle these buzzwords that are littered in the Daily Mail and all these horrible newspapers, and bring it back. That narrative is so key, and we have a wonderful opportunity. What's amazing is that despite the environment that we live in, over 100,000 people embrace the beautiful religion of Islam every year, despite these challenges. Why? Because they show a bit of curiosity. And of course, Allah Ta'ala guides who He wills. They show a bit of curiosity. Some kindness from one Muslim, invited them for iftar or something as simple as that, maybe inspired them. In my own journey to Islam, it was actually this old gentleman, the old being here, and his kindness, like inviting me for a, what's that Kurdish dish that we like, Christopher?
Cozy.
A lamb cozy. Him constantly inviting me out for food and showing me the kindness of what our religion teaches.
Indeed, before that you were very ignorant, weren't you?
We'll go into that a bit later if you want to know.
Yeah, it's that ignorance. Many a time people just don't realize what Islam is. And I speak of my own experiences before becoming a Muslim, thinking about Islam as just Pakistanis or Asians. And I remember seeing certain things, for example, taxi drivers always kind of like stopping in the road and irritating people, and they appeared to me as a nuisance to society. Now, partly the media, as Ben said, is to blame, partly the government is to blame, but also collective responsibility by taking responsibility for our own actions within society, thinking about how you interact, because you know what you're like. Sometimes you might have a neighbor that you might not like. You might just ignore him or her. You know, you might have a lecturer at university. You think, don't really like him. Don't really get on with him or her. You might have a friend of a friend. Don't really like them. But this is your golden opportunity. some of the greatest Islamophobes. We were at a GPU in London a couple of months ago, and we met, what was his name? Jurgen van Klaven?
Yeah,
The Dutch politician that was writing a book against Islam and how dreadful Islam was. But through his research, realized that actually Islam is such a beautiful religion. But also, within that, contains seeds. I don't know if you know too much about the bamboo tree. Everybody knows bamboo. When you plant bamboo, it doesn't go to the surface for about, 5 years? Something like that?
5 years,
It
yes.
remains under the soil for 5 years. Then afterwards, suddenly, it stretches to over 30 meters high in the sky within the space of about 3 months. So within those 5 years, it was developing under the soil, in the dirt, in the darkness. But suddenly, right up to the sky. And that is one of the opportunities that we have in our hands. That is an opportunity that you have in your hands at university. You don't like your neighbor? Smile at him. You don't like your lecturer? Say good morning. Small acts of kindness can plant that seed within their times of darkness. You don't know what they're going through. But suddenly after 5 years, they might think back and think, oh, I remember when that Muslim guy gave me a gift. I remember when I had a Muslim neighbor 5 years ago. He always used to say good morning to me in the morning. And that would trigger, and they would say, you know what, Muslims are actually not bad people. So we all have an opportunity to do good. And we all have an opportunity also to work on ourselves. Islamophobia is a way for us to work on our nafs, on our own egos and desires, and to not get angry. Have we forgotten that the Prophet ﷺ said, "La taghdab," don't get angry. So maybe when an Islamophobe or somebody full of anti-Muslim hatred reacts towards you, you can react by smiling and saying thank you. It changes the narrative. It changes and plants something within their minds. Like, why aren't these Muslims getting angry? Because that's what the media tries to portray, that Muslims are inherently violent and backward, and that they have this fuel within them to want to lash out. But we counter it step by step, khutwa bi khutwa, day by day, step by step, small acts at a time. And it's within that we manage to change society on a small level and a greater level, whether you're in parliament or in university or on the streets, nation upon nation, people upon people, color, creed, whoever it may be, is your opportunity to change the world. And it may not be written in the history books. It may not be written in the Guinness Book of Records, but it will be written in your book of deeds. And that is what matters, because it's an opportunity to suppress that ego that you have within inside you, that, oh, he said this to me, I'm going to beat him up. He said this about Muslims, I'm going to knock him out. Don't you remember the Finsbury Park terrorist attack by the far-right terrorist a couple of years ago, where he killed one of the Muslim worshippers there? What did the Imam do? He shielded the far-right terrorist and told the Muslim brothers, don't beat him up, leave him, let the police deal with it. And that changed the narrative in a way where the media could not put a spin upon it. And that is your opportunity within you. Think about your book that you'll be given to you on the Day of Judgment. And think about that, most of you here are quite young, but at the end of the day, how many people have we heard that die at the age of 20, 21, 22? Most of us, I can see this brother here, we've all got pretty much, I hope you have, watches or phones. Seconds are going by, and maybe tomorrow, who knows, only God. But we may be praying your janazah prayer. We may be praying your janazah prayer. And do you know what? Do you know when you die? Do you know what happens? You get wrapped in a shroud, right? We all know that. But that shroud may already be in the marketplace. That shroud that's going to be wrapped around you may already be in the shop. and the coroner or whoever it may be may have already purchased it. So don't waste your time. Take advantage of it and make use of it, because your breaths, each and every breath, is a footstep towards your grave. And we want to be people of goodness, people of happiness, people of smiles, people that bring light to people's lives, as the Messenger ﷺ did. He was a legacy within himself, and I'm not saying that we're going to be like him, but the golden opportunity is in front of you. Don't let it go to waste. Work on yourself and work on others in small steps.
Get rather emotional. But indeed, and if we look to our history, to the history of Islam in the UK, a convert by the name of Abdullah William Quilliam, who's heard of him? He's from a rival city called Liverpool. I won't say that too loud, don't worry. And what did he do? When he embraced the wonderful religion of Islam, he established Britain's first mosque at a time of great imperial might, when Queen Victoria ruled over more Muslims than the Ottoman Empire did. And imagine during that time, the way how the Muslim would have been perceived then, and how impactful that would have been. And imagine this chap from Liverpool giving the adhan every Friday, walking, or rather riding the streets of Liverpool on a horse and on a turban during the 1890s, and having dung, feces thrown at him. But did that stop him? No, he carried on. And one of the wonderful legacies that he left was not just Britain's first mosque, which is being renovated now, but he also built a community in Victorian times, and also formed an orphanage that fed over 600 people on Christmas Day, believe it or not. Now, that's a wonderful legacy that we must all be proud of. And as converts ourselves, it's closer to home. And it's wonderful. And it's emotional. And these are part of the narratives that we want to take, that these are histories that are not spoken about loud and proud, that the far right and the media want to, put to the bottom of the carpet or under the table. We want to take it from the bottom of the table and put it right to the top. Because this is our history. Islam has existed on these islands for hundreds of years. And it's part of the fabric. And we must keep going, keep striving to do good. Now, I know I'm not perfect, but the journey never stops, and seeking knowledge as well. Learning more about our religion, learning more about how to improve ourselves, and learning more about how the Prophet ﷺ conveyed himself and how he benefited society. And look at the legacy that he left. I don't know if you've seen the meme or, this particular status that goes around on Facebook. We have TikTok now, and, all these people with thousands of millions of followers. Obviously, TikTok and Instagram didn't exist 1,400 years ago. And look how many followers the Prophet has today, and still has, and is growing. Part of that, call people to the truth. Despite facing hardships, I recommend to you, brothers and sisters, listen to the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. Learn about his life. Learn about what he went through to convey this message to us, and how we need to implement it and keep on implementing it and do our best. We know we're not perfect. But each day, improve ourselves a little bit, 1%, 2%, be consistent. There's a wonderful story of a man from the past, a pious man from the past. He was asked, how did he get to this level of piety? He said, I got to this level through grinding my bones. And think of that, the noise that burnt. You're a medical doctor, brother, yes? Like, imagine that, grinding the bones. Oh, that's painful. But the status that he got to, subhanAllah. Remember, brothers and sisters, we are people of the akhirah. The hardships that we face in this life, we'd rather face hardships in this life than in the hereafter. So roll your sleeves up and get stuck in, as they say in Manchester. I think. Oh, it does get emotional. And remember that the manners, they will weigh heavily on the day of judgment. As Christopher keeps saying, and I see you lot walking in, the smiles. That is such a welcoming atmosphere. And you want to convey that in your everyday life. Go into your lectures if you do attend them, or if you go online, but still, smile, 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 because that within itself, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said, what is it? It's an act of charity. It's not just about who gives the most money, but something as simple as that. I heard someone say to me the other day that you want to be like a mirror. Imagine you're walking down the street in rainy Manchester and you're like miserable. And people that look at you, they're going to be miserable as well. But you change that around and you smile at them, what's likely going to happen? They'll smile back. And maybe that smile, you smiling back at them, changed their day and inspired them. So let's be delegates. Let's be ambassadors of our religion in everyday life. Everyday life, brothers and sisters. Where are we going now, Christopher?
Most of you here, I presume, are students. I'd hope so, otherwise where are the students? But by being ambassadors, one of the things that I would highly, highly recommend is that because you're all here in university, take the opportunity to take as much knowledge from the university as possible. Why? Not just to get a degree, not just to pass an exam, not just even from a religious perspective of seeking knowledge, but to empower yourselves. Because many, many Muslims, unfortunately, are uneducated. And I don't mean this in a trivial sense of, oh, they don't have a degree, they've never been to university or college. What I mean by that is they have the inability to express themselves. They have the inability to be able to counter arguments. So your opportunity in university is an opportunity for you to develop your argumentation skills in an eloquent way, to understand concepts, to be able to critique them, and to be able to give smart, clever, strong replies. That is part of being an ambassador. And that is one of the ways that we're going to take back the narrative, because we all know that those who are taking our narratives are educated, are very, very clever in their field, and they hold the seats of power. And even during the times of the Ottomans, we had engineers, we had doctors and nurses and people that were highly educated, scientists. Look at the history of Islam, and we always talk about it. Look how amazing the history of Islam is, Paul and Barry. We invented this and we invented that. Are we just going to keep talking about the history? What about the future? Any of you here are going to start inventing some new things, coming up with new concepts, new ideas, new medical breakthroughs? Because otherwise we're just going to talk about the past, like Ben talking about the past of Forrest. Not winning anything for many, many years. It gets boring after a while. And we become people of the past, not people of the future, of the present. That is really, really important. Because you have people like Tommy Robinson that go on to GB News in the morning, not GB News, GMB with Piers Morgan when he was on there. And he said that, in his words, he said, Islam is an idea and a very bad idea. Now imagine the impact and consequences of that. While you may say, yes, we have freedom of speech in this country and whatever else they say, the consequences, regardless of freedom of speech, the consequences of that on the general population, on the Susans, on the Doreens when they're waking up and having their coffee and tea with marmalade or whatever in the mornings, hearing Robinson on national TV saying Islam is a bad idea. That is incredibly dangerous, and it harms us, and it harms our whole entire community. And if we have not got the resources, we are not able to lobby the government to say this is not acceptable. We do not have the resources to stand up to the media and say this is not acceptable. I mentioned GB News just a second ago as a slip of the tongue, but on GB News, one of the far-right funded news channels, where's the Muslim-funded news channels? We've tried a little bit. but they're not going to make it mainstream. But it's a start. And we have to continue that way, because otherwise they're, like I said, going to write our narratives for us. So you can also take this opportunity in university, as I would recommend as a graduate also, to not see it as, oh, I'm just doing uni, I'm going to do a degree, and then, yeah, hopefully I'll get this career. But rather, I'm in this opportunity, I'm in this phase, I'm in this position right now where I don't really have to worry about going to work. I don't really have to worry about waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is to go to work. I don't really have to worry about paying all sorts of different bills, and you might have dorms and stuff like that to pay. All there's not really a worry per se. But you have this opportunity to make yourself clever, to make yourself intellectual, so that you can counter these narratives. That's why you're here, right? I mean, I hope so. I hope you weren't just here just for the sake of your parents. I hope you have this desire within your bellies for knowledge, all types of knowledge, to cause those breakthroughs, to counter the narratives, to make us strong. And I'm not going to mention names, but there are certain groups within society that own a lot of things, whether it be the media or else, because they know what they were doing. They were clever. And we have to be clever. And likewise, this might sound controversial, but if you've got parents from overseas, encourage them to learn English if they don't know English. It's really, really important. Because when my parents look at your parents, and if your parents can't speak English, they're like, oh, there you go, Muslims or Muslims. Can't integrate, not bothered about learning English, not bothered about our country, coming over here, Sharia law, want to change things, and I don't like it. I'm going to vote reform. So even your parents have an opportunity. Many of them came to this country not coming to spread Islam. They came here to work in the factories, to generate some income, to try and have a better life for their children. But you can flip it and say, okay, maybe that was the initial intention, but now we have a new opportunity. So take hold, try and educate each other, encourage each other. As is mentioned in the Quran, تعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان. Support each other in righteousness and good deeds, and don't support each other in sin. So be, for the men, be real men, be strong men. It's going to sound a bit hypocritical, but go to the gym. I used to. Too busy now. Go to the gym. Read books. Read what these people are writing. Read the academics. There are many. Do you know how many? I'm reading so many academics right now in Oxford that are writing bad things about Islam. So many people that are taking, for example, look at this example. Islamist. What do you really associate with this term? Terrorist, extremist, fundamentalist. Little do people realize that Islamist originally linguistically meant either a person who practiced Islam or a person that was knowledgeable about Islam. And somebody, a non-Muslim, an Islamophobe, took that word and turned it into a meaning that meant a violent person, an inherently backward person, a person that wants to destroy culture and wants to blow up themselves and cause all sorts of violence and havoc. But how did all that happen? How did we get to this situation? Because somebody else took control of our narrative.
I don't know about you lot, but that's pumped me up a lot. And it's up to us. And what's that? You got your pump from a bicep, have you? But, I mean, what more can we say, brothers and sisters? Let's get to it. Let's start today, tomorrow. Let's get cracking, as they say. And let's do things with a smile. And to my fellow converts, I know that sometimes it can seem difficult, and you might seem isolated at times, but rely on Allah. And keep going and rely. Make friends. To my born Muslim brothers and sisters, take the converts in. Don't leave them to dry. Look after them.
Don't just give them a
And
50p
don't
perfume
give
as
them
well.
50p perfume and cake and leave it. Because these are your family now. And from my own experience about Christopher, but it can be isolating sometimes. Like your kindness and you inviting them to your friendship groups can mean a lot. And it strives them to feel as part of a community. I think we've spoken a lot longer than we thought. So, barakallahu fikum.
I haven't finished yet.
Oh, have we not?
No.
Oh, how long do you want to speak for? Are we good?
Right, okay. Final word. Islamophobia. Whether you want to call it Islamophobia, anti-Muslim hate, whatever you want to call it, we all recognize it when we see it. We all know what it is. It doesn't just affect us in the UK. It doesn't just affect Muslims in America. It doesn't just affect Muslims in Germany, or France, or Australia, or Japan, or wherever it may be. It also affects Muslims in Palestine. Because they are othered. They are othered. They are marginalized. They are described as subhuman. And the same narratives are being propelled upon us here in this country and in Europe and in the West. Unfortunately, it's just they're further down the line with it. And it is unfortunate that nobody's being able to support them in a way whereby it all started off with kind of Islamophobic tropes about Arabs and Muslims, particularly in America. Islamophobia in America is very much more centered around the Arab, or the Arab, as they call him. But it centers around that there in America. But it happens in Palestine, and it started many, many years ago. They're considered nothing. And now they're facing the brute ultimate end of Islamophobia, which is murder, essentially, genocide. So remember that. And to that we say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Thank you ever so much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful, very inspiring speech, and it's quite relevant to us, especially as university students. And they talked about something very important about using the opportunity that we have as students in our different degrees to use the skills that we have and do something. And we need to stop remembering the past and start focusing on the future and focusing on the now. And you mentioned, with Ben always going on about Forest, but we need to be more like Man City and live in the moment and know, about the things that we're winning now and what we want to win in the future.
Typical.
So, alhamdulillah, they very kindly agreed to do a Q&A, question and answer session. So we'll now take some questions from the audience. So if you do have a question, please raise your hand.
It can be off topic as well.
It can be off topic as well. It doesn't have to be about the speech, it can be about it. Inshallah. Any questions? You have a question? Can you please give us a step-by-step approach to how to give dawah to someone on your course of knowledge?
Step-by-step approach.
To give dawah to somebody on your course who isn't Muslim.
On your course who isn't Muslim, okay. Okay, so the question was a step-by-step approach to give dawah to a non-Muslim that may be on your course, presumably degree course, right? Start off with being a good person. Start off, like we mentioned, with the smiling, with the gifts. The Prophet ﷺ said, give gifts and love. So give gifts. Start off with that. Then, thereafter, you might explain to them. You might say, Ahmed, why do you keep giving me, a box of Maltesers every week? You can say, because my religion encourages to give gifts and I thought it'd be nice to give you a gift. Cheerio, bye-bye, kind of thing. Leave it like that. No need to go into details. No need to go to him and say, because Allah said in the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ said this. All right, okay, Shahada, let's go. Whoa, I don't think so. He's off to a party. Shway, take it easy. Smile. Gift. Thereafter, you might mention something in passing. You might say, Do you know what Dave, well, I don't know many students called Dave anymore, but Tom, you might say, Tom, do you know what? Me and the lads are going out for shawarma later. Would you like to come? You might say no. Well, it doesn't matter because you've invited him. You've included him. He feels part of the group. He might say no, he might say yes. If he says yes, you go and you buy him shawarma. And you say, you know what, Tom? You still hungry? Pudding. Right, okay. What do you normally have for pudding? What do you have for pudding?
Rice pudding.
Cheesecake. So you start to include him within your circle. Then he starts to become your friend, and he becomes your friend's friend as well in the circle. You don't need to speak Arabic in front of him, or Urdu or something, or you don't need to call him what is it called? Gore. Don't call him a gore. Don't do that. ولا تحكي عربي كمان. إذا تحكي عربي ما بعرف. Speak English and just have fun with him. He will feel included and he'll start to feel close to you. That is really, really important because British people don't like it. British people don't like people touching them. They find it weird. They're not used to it. You know, in my house when I was growing up, we wouldn't even say I love you. But my father would show love to his dog. So they're not used to it. But by slowly including him within your circle, you start to find opportunities. They arise before you. And you can say, Tom, we're just going to go and pray. Give us 5 minutes. You might find him standing by the door, but he might be peeping. And he might just start thinking, you know what, these people are so good, they're so committed, and they're really, really firm in their religion, but they're so nice to me as well. And it contradicts what the media has told me. And then you find the opportunity to start talking to them about Islam. And you start with theology. And you know what? This is really, really important. I would say as well, don't go into the contradictions in the Bible. Some people do that. Oh, you know, it says in the Bible this and it says in the Bible that. Forget that. Most people don't even believe in the Bible. They're just cultural Christians. You could say that Islam teaches this. And Islam is logical. And Islam has provided the logic that agrees with the sound mind. Tom. You know, Tom, like, there has to be a creator. Look around you. Use what the prophets used, which was their minds and logical reasoning, in a way that he cannot reject what you present to him. In a friendly manner, of course.
I'm going to use myself as a bit of a case study. I think Christopher did it as
Sorry, I went a bit longer.
But when I converted to Islam, with the lamkuzi, eating, being hugged by people, and I felt included. And I started to ask questions about, why do you pray 5 times a day? Like, who is Muhammad? And Christopher, for example, like, would answer me, but not in a pushy way, in a gentle way. And for me, as a non-Muslim at that time, it felt like I wasn't being pressured to do something. And that's the thing that you don't want. You don't want to force somebody, they're scared, they want to run away. You want to give them love and compassion, like show them the way. So when I was bought shawarma during the time of Ramadan, I was always invited to have iftar. And I felt really guilty because I'd been eating, pies and sausage rolls and all that sort of stuff from Greg's the whole day. And, my Muslim friends had been fasting all day. But what did they want to do? Mostly to make sure that I was fed, watered, and I was happy. So after this shawarma, again, it got onto the question. I started asking questions. They started showing me things that the religion teaches about appealing to the intellect. And then just like that, I can't snap my fingers, so I'll have to bang my hand on the table, but it just suddenly clicked. But it was from the good manners and them showing me mercy and love in a sense that I thought, wow, I want to be a part of this. And then I said the Shahada, Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillah. Thank you, brother, for the quote. Is that all right? Fantastic, great smile.
Do
you have any advice about supporting reverts you know?
you have any advice about supporting reverts that you know?
I think pretty much the same as what we said, making them feel included, like we mentioned earlier, not just giving them 50p perfume, utter, and a prayer mat. Especially like, I don't know about you, but particularly like when we're given that 50p perfume, we're not used to the smell, so it smells like washing up liquid for us initially.
Buy some Dior or something like that.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. But for converts, reverts, new Muslims, to support them, what's essential is being close to them, really being close to them. I remember somebody that was about 60 years old. He was from Normandy, and he became a Muslim, and his father shot himself in the head, and his mother would never accept Islam. This particular individual, he actually reached out to a Muslim about 1 o'clock in the morning, and he said, I hope you're well, I hope you're sleeping calmly, and I hope you're feeling relaxed. And that other person, just that small thing, that small text, was an initiation whereby this person really felt loved, and it was genuine, it wasn't fake. And that's really what I'm not really keen on, is kind of like promoting these converts and putting them up on stages with microphones. And, like I remember when I was 17, I'd been a Muslim for a year, and people are calling me Sheikh, and it's ridiculous. It really is a travesty, to be honest with you, because you know hardly anything about Islam. And you could say to the convert, revert, whatever you want to call them, you could say, look, I realize you're really enthusiastic. You like somebody that's just passed their test. You want to drive everywhere at 100 miles an hour. But after a while, you get bored of that, and you tell your friends to come and meet you, or meet me at a bus stop or whatever. And it's the same thing. Knowledge is taken in steps. And I believe it's in the beginning of the Imam Muslim Sahih that if you try and acquire all the knowledge, you miss all the knowledge. So step by step. And it's really important. I don't think it's emphasized enough, because we do sometimes say it like, take your time and stuff like that. But take your time means take your time in acquiring knowledge and getting to grips with what it means to be a Muslim. It doesn't mean take your time, don't pray. It doesn't mean take your time, don't fast. Because you're still obligated to do that, whoever, whether you're a convert, revert, whatever. But it means, be easy with them, take their time, and really build a real close relationship with them, where they feel that they can ask you anything and they can rely upon you and go out your way. That's another opportunity for you to work on your own nafs and your own ego, is to go out of your way to go and help them, even though it might be 11 o'clock at night and you're watching I'm a Celebrity, or I don't know, whatever it is.
Well, we'll take a question from the sisters.
When trying to reach non-Muslims, how do you strike the balance between being palatable and not compromising Muslims?
Did you hear that?
Say that again.
So she said, when talking to non-Muslims or giving them dawah, when trying to reach non-Muslims, how do you balance the fact of being palatable towards them but not compromising your religion, right? Or your Muslimness?
I think I do have a bit of an example, actually. I was on the train, and it was during Ramadan, and everybody was sort of like eating, and a friendly couple offered me a sandwich, and it had contained swine in it, and I politely declined it, and they were like, "Oh, why?" And I told them that I'm a convert and everything like that, and they were sort of shocked, because obviously I don't fit the bill, so to speak. And they were like, well, that's a bit, strict and everything like that. And I just gently explained to them, like, the rules and, like, how Islam was changing, Like, I went into that. And what I realized is that the more I explained things and I was answering their questions in a sincere way, like in a sort of conversational way, whilst not wanting to offend them, I just explained it to them. And I find that if you show manners, again, like we said in the talk, manners they weigh heavy on the day of judgment, like showing that the manners to them. And I said, no, I can't do that, and like shouting at you can't do that. But then gently explaining to them and having that nice conversation, because from the experience that I had with them, that they didn't know most of the things that we were talking about. They didn't know that about Islam or anything like that. And I felt good, obviously, that I'd given a bit of trained dawah, so to speak. And I knew that I changed and helped change their perception of Muslims because I spoke to them as human beings. So to answer your question in a nutshell, just explain. Don't be scared to stand up for your religion. Don't be scared, and don't compromise it, but in a way where, you discuss with them, like you tell them, you teach them in a way.
And crack jokes with them.
Yeah, exactly. Crack jokes with them, like make them feel comfortable. Because I know that sometimes when people see, like if I've been in a thobe or whatever, sometimes, he's a bit religious. Like challenge that stereotype. MashaAllah, we're observing the hijab, you're demonstrating your Muslimness. That is a great opportunity for you. Like, if somebody asks you about it, explain to them in a nice, friendly way, and you'll see the smiles on their faces light up. Because, lo and behold, they probably haven't had it explained to them before. And the only times that they've had it explained to them is by our so-called friends in the media. And that's where we come to, like, changing that narrative. So again, explanation, kindness, and joking as well.
Sorry, just one final point on that. A very quick example that of Ben is we were in a city and there was a far right march and we were speaking to one guy and he said, "The problem with Muslims is that those Pakistani Muslims is that they're taking our girls and the rest." Little did he realize that about 85% of the people that do that are white people. Anyway, that's aside. Ben spoke to him, took his number, and said, "Let's go for a coffee." So that's, and he started calming down, and he was like, "Well, yeah, all right, yeah, we'll go for a coffee," kind of thing. And it was an opportunity. So you might be in that situation whereby you might be talking to somebody, but also, what's next? Take their number and follow it up and make friends with them. And of course, obviously, don't compromise your religion.
We'll have one more question from the sister side, Michelle.
I can't hear what she's saying.
The question was that you have a neighbour, a 23-year-old neighbour that you've been friends with for about 10 years, 10, 12 years. Yes. And you've been in contact with her and you want to know how you can kind of progress that and continue that relationship with her and tell her about Islam. Yeah. Yes.
What's the barrier?
So what was the barrier or what was preventing it so far? So you just got a friendship, you don't know how to move forward now. Yeah. So I guess the question is, once you kind of become friends with them, once you're on a level with them, but you advise them about Islam, you're not really taking anything in, or it's not progressing, what do you do at that point?
Pray for them. Pray for them. Pray for guidance for them. That's all you can really do. Try your best. Keep going. Don't give up. Keep going. You might think, okay, I'm not seeing anything now. She's not become a Muslim, or she's not really that interested. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Patience, 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 patience. Maybe in 5 years' time she'll say the Shahada, but it'll be worth it. You'll be like the bamboo tree.
Yes, it's just persistence, really.
You should keep it short.
And, you know, just keep doing what you're doing, really, and may Allah reward you. And ultimately, remember, it is Allah guides who He will.
Jazakallah khairan, Chris in bed.